Welcome to the next installment in my video lecture series for international economics. And in this particular video lecture, I'm going to be taking a look at how an increase in the relative price of cloth affects relative supply. So what you're seeing here is our starting point. We have our PPF. I believe in your textbook it is listed as TT. Like I said previously, I always refer to it as the Production Possibilities Frontier, the PPF. And we have a price line that gives us the ratio of the prices of cloth over the price of food. So we have a price line and a PPF, and where we get to the point where that price line, the price of cloth over the price of food, is just tangent to the PPF, that is the production level that we will say for the two commodities here, food and cloth. So what I want to do is increase the relative price of cloth with respect to food to see what the impact of that is on production. So what I'm going to do is, for shorthand's sake, I'm just going to copy these items here. I'm going to duplicate them, move that here, and realize that if I increase the price of cloth, the slope of this becomes steeper. So I'm going to have a line that is steeper than the original line. So here is the new price ratio, and it is steeper to reflect the fact that we have an increase in the price of cloth. So this line is going to have a much greater slope. So let me bring this in so it is just tangent to the Production Possibilities Frontier. All right. And let me actually put in a dot there, and let me make it the same size as the other dot just to keep it consistent. So with the increase in the price of cloth, we now have a new price line, which reflects that it's steeper because of the increase in the price. So if I go from this point over, this shows me how much food is being produced. So let me copy and paste this and change the notation. So this is a 2. So we see a decrease in the production of food because price of cloth has increased, so it's more valuable commodity to produce cloth. So we're going to be shifting away resources away from food and to cloth. And if I go straight down from that point where the price line or the new price line is just tangent to the Production Possibilities Frontier, this is now my output of cloth. So we see an increase in the production of cloth due to the increase in the price. So we have an increase in the relative price causes an increase in the relative production of cloth. So what I can do is I can just represent this by putting another point, and let me make it the same size as the other point and also make it the same color. I believe it was ocean. Hopefully that is correct. And let me just double check this. Apologies for the delay. Okay, so that was a size, thickness of 3. So let me just make that consistent for you. So what does this show? Well, it is showing that when I increase the price, the relative price of cloth, and let me make that let me do that again. Apologies for that. So I'll change the notation on this to a 2. So this reflects the new price ratio with the price of cloth being higher relative to the price of food. So we have an increase in the price and the increase in the relative price. And what did the increase in this relative price cause? It caused an increase in the relative quantity of cloth produced relative to food produced. So that shows us that there is a positive relationship between the relative price of cloth and the relative quantity of cloth that is produced, and that gives us an upward sloping relative supply curve. Let me change that. So this is the relative supply curve. Let me change the size of that so it's a little bit easier to see, and I will also change the color. So just to review, make sure you realize that when you increase the relative price of a particular commodity, the relative production of that commodity increases. Therefore, there is a positive relationship between the relative price of a particular commodity and the relative quantity of that produced. So we did that by starting at our initial point here and these two levels of output to give us this point over here. We increased the price of cloth and kept the price of food constant, which caused that price line, which I referenced previously, to become steeper. So this line is steeper relative to this line because the price of cloth has increased. We moved that so it was just tangent to our pre-existing PPF, and that gave us new production levels of food and cloth. And we recognize that with an increase in the relative price of cloth to food, that increased the relative supply of cloth to food. So this gives us this upward sloping supply curve because of the increasing price of cloth relative to the price of food.